Hi, I'm Abby Brocon. Welcome back to Exploring Salem. Today we're in the Capitol Center in downtown Salem, and this episode is all about Salem's underground history. We got a chance to speak with professor and historian John Ritter in this episode, as well as go into the basements of several local buildings, including the Oregon Building and the Capitol Center. Let's talk now with historian John Ritter, and later on in the show we'll be coming back to the Capitol Center. We're here in the Reed Opera House with historian John Ritter. So tell me a little bit about your background as a historian and your work in Salem.
Well, I started reading history when I was very, very young. My brothers would bring me home their college textbooks. So By the time I went to first grade, I could read almost in high school level. And by the time I went into high school, I was reading college texts and finishing them. High school was easy. I went away to college, got a history degree, and couldn't get work with a history degree, so I got an education degree and went to teach at the state hospital when they were filming Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh, yeah.
And then after about 5-6 years at the state hospital, I moved over to the state penitentiary and taught there for 35 years. And while at the penitentiary, there was an agreement between the warden, Hoyt Cupp, and the staff that anybody who wanted to apply for a sabbatical could do that. Wow. And so I applied for a sabbatical every summer for 35 years to go away and work on a degree. So I was able to pick up 4 masters and pick up several language degrees. And I was very fortunate. I've been an NEH recipient, National Endowment for the Humanities, 9 times, Guggenheim twice, a Taft Fellowship twice, and a Fulbright to Egypt to study Arabic language. So it's been kind of roundabout in history, but I've been very, very lucky. And I have a master's in Pacific Northwest history, medieval, and American history.
Wow, that's just wonderful. You know, wonderful qualifications and everything. What interested you in Salem's history in particular, and what aspects interested you most?
Well, I grew up here, so I knew the history, and I knew a lot of the people that had made history, like Tom McCall, Mark Hatfield, Bob Straub. I knew a lot through connections of my father, who was a large construction company owner here in Salem. I got to meet a lot of them. And I also loved to dig around places and would dig around the old buildings before he would wreck them. He wrecked the Salem City Hall, the Marion County Courthouse, and many buildings that were in Salem, and I'd go dig around in them to look for things. I got interested in Salem's history because of Cecil Edwards, the Capitol historian, told me, focus on Salem, become an expert on Salem. And nobody else was, so I said, why not do it? So for about the past 30 years, I've been reading and studying Salem history.
Wow, you know, I know that Salem's underground is something that's interested you particularly in recent times. What is it about the underground?
Well, you know, the underground was very active, pre-1940s, very, very active. They housed the Chinese immigrants who were down there with their gambling houses and housed the prostitution and opium dens, because the Chinese couldn't recreate above ground with the white people. They could only recreate where they couldn't be seen, so they went underground. And a lot of the Salem businesses had tunnel systems that interconnected, because, as you know, it rains a lot in Salem.
Oh yeah.
So people would move from one building to another via tunnel and not get wet. And also, you could go to one tunnel on Ferry Street and come out at the Reed Opera House. So you could go to the Reed Opera House and go to the Chinese opium dens or gambling dens or houses of prostitution that were on Ferry Street and High Street in a gully there, which the gully's still there. It's covered over with a lot of buildings. And you could go there and not be seen, and you could park your carriage here. So, and also, the businesses didn't like to have crates, because everything was crated back then and came on steamship and then wagon to the various stores. Well, what they liked to do was lower it down via an elevator into the basement and then bring the goods up from the basement. They didn't want to bother the shoppers when they were shopping, and they didn't want to do it at night when they couldn't see. This was before there were streetlights. So they used elevators. So most all these old blocks have steel plates around them out on the sidewalk. That's where the elevators were, and I found several.
That's amazing. What specific buildings in Salem have you researched as part of this puzzle piece, piecing together the history in recent times?
I've been, in the last 6 months, I've been in the four main square blocks of downtown Salem. And we've looked in buildings and tunnels underneath to look for how they were connected. And you can see passages that are about 4 feet high and round shape, but they're bricked off.
Oh, yeah.
So they were bricked off a lot by the city of Salem when they redid sewer projects, and they were bricked off when they flooded too much. Because Salem, as you know, was built underneath the water table, the basement, so they flooded a lot. Now, the oldest tunnels around are the state hospital and out at the state penitentiary. And there used to be a tunnel connecting the two when it was when they had brick walls before it was a cement wall. And since then, they filled in the tunnel because they didn't want inmates to find a way out. So they filled in the tunnel. But all the produce, meat, poultry, beef, and all the laundry was done and processed from the penitentiary farms at the state pen and then sent underground with a little railway car. And the railway tracks are still there. And they were delivered to the state hospital. The state hospital used to have 5,000 people there. Now they have 500, I think. But they used to have 5,000 people. And they all had to be fed, and they all had to have bread baked for them. That was all done from the prison.
Now, did any previous sort of inferences or assumptions that you had about Salem's underground get validated in recent times after the research?
Yes, they did. I was sure that underground was connected. And I've seen the tunnels that are walled off, that if we took a sledgehammer, it'd be able to break through and go underneath the street all the way.
Yeah.
In some buildings, they go halfway out under the street and then stop. Well, now, why would somebody build a tunnel halfway out and then stop when they didn't use it for storage? They built a tunnel for a purpose. The purpose was to connect the blocks underground. So that's been validated. I'm still looking for the Chinese opium dens.
Yeah. Were any discoveries, particularly surprising or not what you expected?
Well, I found a fur trap. Like a mink or otter trap underneath one of the buildings, and we found, seen the stone foundations of the river rock that were brought down from Almsville, from the rock crusher there. I've seen the original brick that was made out at the penitentiary brickyards, and I've seen river rock foundations. So I know the blocks that are old. That predate in 1926, and those are the blocks that have tunnels.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of some Salem buildings in downtown have kept a lot of the old bricks or floors.
And the facade. Now, a lot of the buildings have changed, but underneath the facade, you can see the original brick. And most, 99.9% of the property owners are very happy to come down and look because they're looking at future tourism.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe we'll do an underground tour like Pendleton, like Seattle, like Portland.
Yeah, the underground tours obviously in recent times have drawn a lot of attention. People are interested in the mystery aspect of it and learning about the history of the tunnels.
Oh, absolutely.
But for people who don't want their buildings shown, or people who wonder why people are so interested, why would you think it's interesting and important to know about?
Well, it's a part of Salem's history.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a part of history that's been buried for a long time.
Yeah.
And we're discovering it again with the team that I have that looks for things and that finds me access. Rebecca Maitland of the Reed is wonderful in getting me access to the buildings. And it's just very exciting. When we had tours, one underground tour, we had like 200 people wanted the tours. 500 people wanted to come on the tours. So several hundred had to be turned away.
That was, a demonstration of just how interested people are, though. That's the good part of it.
People are very interested in Salem's history because no one teaches about it, no one talks about it, and they're very interested. People are interested in history because it's part of their roots, and they want to know about where they live, what went on. And the more they know about it, the more they become interested, and we make that. I think this all helps a vibrant downtown even get more active.
We're here in the Oregon Building with John McGregor. This is 494 State Street. And where do you work?
I'm with Service Master. We do maintenance and cleaning in the downtown area. We've been down at the Oregon Building about 15 years. And so in that 15 years, we've had a chance to kind of learn some of the ins and outs of the building.
And you've spoken with historian John Ritter about some of these discoveries in the basement area?
We have, and he was able to fill in some of the details of those. So that made it kind of interesting to listen to John.
And you're able to show us some of the basement at the moment?
Sure, I'd love to take you down.
We're here in the basement of the Oregon building. Tell us about some specifics down here.
Well, the basement is mostly original, though it has been built up for storage in the past 100 years or 105 years or so that the Oregon building has been existing. But you can still see some original places, some murals on the wall that are probably original to the building, a safe that goes underneath the street that really is rather interesting, and then you can see the rubble foundation from when they originally built this, that probably built that by hand.
Yeah, it was just amazing to look at, sort of get an idea of just a tiny portion of what the length of the tunnel used to be. And you said this is original flooring as well?
That's correct.
Yeah, and you said you also talked to John Ritter, who possibly had an idea about that room over there and the sort of murals on the wall?
Yeah, he thought that might have been either a cafe or perhaps a bathhouse, and a bathhouse would have been something that either a traveler or even Salem citizens would have used back in 1900, not having running water in their house.
We're here in the basement of the Capitol Center in the gold drop that John Ritter was talking about earlier in the program. What is your name?
My name is Jason Burke.
And what do you do here at the Capitol Center?
I'm part of the maintenance crew that maintains this building and others downtown.
And tell us about some of the specifics about this gold drop.
Back when this was the bank, they would bring the gold in on street level, drop it down through here for security purposes. They didn't want it out, in between the truck and the building too long. They drop it down here. They had guards along the way, and then they would proceed from here to the vault room.
Yeah, and I understand you were part of the historical tours, showing this area to people and making sure that they don't, wander too far in it into the unsafe areas. Tell us about that.
I was down here prepping for the tours, getting things ready, clearing out this room. There's a lot of old debris and a lot of things we had to clean out to make it safe for people to come through.
Yeah, because I understand making some of these underground areas safe for people to take tours through is definitely one of the biggest obstacles in showing it. But, the history is well preserved. Tell us about the safe.
The safe, very old. It was built along, as far as I know, with the building. The safe door has been decommissioned, so it no longer, for safety purposes, so people don't get locked inside.
Where can we see, the blocked off walls?
That I'm not positive. I've been looking myself since I worked here. I've been here almost 5 months, and I've been looking for those markers myself as we move around downtown, and I can look down now and see and start figuring out where all these tunnels went to.
Yeah, and there's areas, in the Reed and the Grand Theater, and even I think in this gold drop, if we just pan the camera that way, we can see this wall over here, blocked off tunnel, as I think John Ritter may have said. So there you go. Interest in the history of Salem's underground has gained a lot of public of Salem's underground has kind of gained momentum. I hear noises. There's a ghost. And in this episode, we're talking with historian John Ritter. Go ahead.